Free stuff is awesome, but free stuff to spice up the bedroom is even better. Whether you're buying a gift for your sugar baby or just for yourself, you can get 50% off at adamandeve.com when you enter the code CANDY at checkout.
And that's not all. Adam and Eve will include 10 tantalizing free gifts, a sexy item for him, a special gift for her, and a third item all partners can enjoy. Plus, you'll receive 6 free spicy movies.
But the best part is the free shipping.
You can get all of this at adamandeve.com using code CANDY at checkout.
That's CANDY.
So Shelby, what are you getting me?
Baby, I just wanna be a life alone with you. Take me, I'll be your wet dream.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Candy Girl. I'm your host Shelby.
And I'm your co-host Emily.
Today we are talking to Madam Skin Diamond. So excited to do this interview. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Madam Skin. I have been an adult performer for a few years, but now I also do music. I write and perform songs, and I also work as a dominatrix.
So I have so many questions for you, but I really want to start off with how you came up with your name.
Well, that's definitely a common question. So. It was honestly it's a long-winded story, but long story short, I was in a play. One of the character nickname was Skin, and at the time I was really into Suicide Girls, and I wanted to be a Suicide Girl, so I was like, Skin Suicide sounds cool. I ended up not being a Suicide Girl, and I did other stuff instead, but I kept the Skin name. And then years later, when I had a Twitter, my name was Skin Diamonds because skin was taken and it was going to be either that or skin disease. I don't know. I was a little weird, a youngin'. And then when I started doing porn, I was kind of like, oh, well, Skin Diamond will be my porn name. That sounds like a porn name. So, but I didn't think I was going to be like doing porn full time. I was just kind of doing it for fun. And then I just stuck. And it works, so there you go.
So with your music career, and you mentioned earlier that you were in a play, it sounds like you've always been a performer.
Yeah, well, I come from a background. My dad is an actor, and he was a singer, performer. He was also a missionary, so all of that kind of got melded into one thing. Like they would do like skits and stuff about God and make it fun. Like they had a Sunday Night Live that was like a take on Saturday Night Live, and but he also did a bunch of albums, and then he did children's stuff, so children's TV. So yeah, I've just always been around theater, and I studied acting and performance in college. And at the time I wanted to be a stage actress. But then I wanted to have tattoos, so I kind of decided to go into modeling instead, which I never thought I would model, but it was been really fun.
Do you feel like there's an aspect of your love of performing that goes into being a dominatrix?
Yes and no. I'm definitely an exhibitionist, and I like to dress up, and I like to command a room, I guess. So it just kind of made sense. You know, I used to see myself more submissive, especially when I first got into the fetish scene when I was like 18, 19. I started going to fetish clubs, and I was drawn to both sides, but I always felt more comfortable being submissive, I guess, because being submissive, you can kind of be led into the situations. And that was how I learned a lot. And the BDSM world was starting from the bottom. But then being a submissive made me realize that I'm not that submissive. Like I'm very, like in my day-to-day life, I definitely like to be the boss and, command things. But yeah, there's definitely sides to it. But I wouldn't really say like for me, BDSM is so like intrinsic to who I am as a person. So like it's fun to perform, but it's definitely a little bit closer to home, if that makes sense, than just like acting or.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked to Mistress Helena Locke a little bit about her perspective on healing work and dom work and how they go hand in hand, but I would love to hear your take on it as well.
Well, for me, sexual healing is so. I love Helena, by the way. Sexual healing for me is so important. I think that a lot of issues that people develop over time, a lot of it is sex related, or lack or feeling, shunned because of their sexuality or whatever it is. But I think that, it's also working with your roots, your root chakras. Your like if things the foundation isn't right, then everything gets messed up. So, and I've personally gone through sexual blocks and having to heal. And I find that BDSM is always what does it.
First of all, I love Mistress Locke. She said that she would gag me and put me into a corner, and I have just never been so enamored in my entire life and flattered, weirdly. Second, I'd really like to kind of hear more about how specifically BDSM can help work through sexual blocks.
It all always depends on what the blocks are stemming from, of course. But I think that, especially if you're in a submissive role, feeling that sense of being guided through something kind of allows you to let go. At least with me, when I was doing my slave training on the upper floor at kink.com and stuff, that process of being led into something and maybe experiencing things that are body sensations, doesn't even have to be sexual sensations. Feeling all of those different sensations allows you to open up. For example, I can squirt, but for some reason I can usually only squirt if I'm tied up in bondage and there's a shit ton of stuff going on, because that's the only way brain can let go enough to just be like, okay, I'm doing it. But because it's so tuned to each person, the only way to kind of really do it is to just play. And like the things that you naturally lean towards are usually your gut instinct knows what it needs, even if it can't really communicate it. So sometimes during play, you can have these crazy experiences that wasn't planned. Maybe it unlocked something. And that's why I love, and BDSM really is playtime for grown-ups. I've said it for years. Like it's like that's where we continue learning. Like you start off as a kid and you're playing with toys, and then you move on to whips and things, and it becomes more of a mind game. And yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of your childhood, it sounds like you grew up at some point, at least in a very Christian household. So how do you feel like that has translated into your life now? And like, do you still identify as Christian, or is that something that you've left behind?
I was definitely raised in a very Christian. I mean, my parents were missionaries, so we grew up in Scotland, and I mean, I'm still very spiritual. I don't, as a principal thing, I'm not fond of organized religion. I think it causes a lot of issues. But that being said, I do respect everybody's beliefs. And if that's what helps you be a good person, then cool. Just, But these days, I tend to lean towards more old world views, and I love nature, and that's my church, is just being in nature and all of those things. I'm also really into old mythologies, especially like ancient Egyptian, ancient Sumerian. I don't know. I just love old things. So I like to go back.
I was gonna say your makeup almost looks like those like Egyptian hieroglyphics, the way that they did the cat eyeliner.
Oh, thanks. I Yeah, that's probably why I do that.
Um,
uh,
so I grew up Catholic, and it gave me a very complicated relationship with sex because especially women are discouraged from engaging in sexual activity or even really having any interest in it at all. Is that something that you ever experienced, or did you just bypass that and you're like, no, this is my body and I'm going to do what I want with it?
Oh, I totally hear you. I definitely had a phase when I first started like experimenting and being bad, like I had a what if I'm wrong? And like mental war is just like it's crazy because you're conditioned to believe things for so long that trying to like break free can be its own thing. But I've always been really drawn to sex, being sexual. So I was like curious about things from a young age, but being Christian, you're kind of told that that's wrong. And I definitely have battled a lot of internal putting myself down and, oh, well, maybe I am just a fucking slut or whatever. But, especially like in my early 20s, porn and the fetish world really helps because you meet so many like-minded people that are like they're amazing, cool people. Like a lot of more conservative views will say that you can't tap into anything really genuinely good if you're putting yourself into these situations because it's you're sitting and it's evil and whatever. But living and realizing that that is not the case at all, I think is very freeing. I think it's very freeing. And women are sexual beings. Like this is why I love Inanna. And if you haven't heard of Inanna, the ancient Sumerian goddess, you're gonna fucking love her because she was a goddess of love and chaos. She was basically like a dominatrix. A lot of her imagery, she's like got her leg up on a lion and she's got a whip. She was able to change the sex of a person. So a lot of her priests and priestesses would cross dress. Like it's really interesting, but I love her. Like she's like my role model. Just fucking like take charge. Like there's some of her poetry, she's like resting on a tree and she's just got her crotch out. She's like, my wondrous vulva. Look at my vulva. And it's like, yeah, look at it. So yeah, she's fucking badass. And I definitely like she's my goddess.
Yeah, damn, I feel empowered just by the way you describe that.
Wow, this is the OG bad bitch.
She's the OG. She's the first recorded goddess that we know of, really, because before her it was a lot of like nameless kind of entities, but Sumerians were like she was the queen of civilization.
On the Wikipedia page, it's goddess of sex, war, justice, political power, queen of heaven. This bitch was in charge of everything.
And you know why? This is an interesting story. So she went to visit her uncle and basically got him drunk, and he had all of the powers. They're called the may or the me, and they're like, this is the power of free thinking, this is the power of, I have to look it up, but like basically all the powers of everything. And he just gives them to her and he's like, yes, I'll take them, thank you. And then he sobers up and realizes that he just gave away all of his powers to her, and she's like, no, you gave them to me, they're mine, I'm taking them to my city now. And she just like takes it. I think it's hilarious. Oh, I love her.
Is this kind of the oldest recording of having gods and goddesses?
Pretty much. I mean, a lot of the gods and deities before then were like there was a woman figure, it was the big hip and big boobs figurine that they found throughout history, but she never really had a name, but that was something they worship. But the Sumerians, the Anunnaki, Babylon, like that was the birth of civilization. And so yes, these are our earliest recorded gods that we know of. It's pretty cool. There's a lot more to it if you like aliens and stuff, but
one thing that we were curious about is you mentioned being a musician. How does your passion for music coincide with your passion for dom work and healing?
I actually do tend to sing in session just to myself. Like if a song that I'm on that's playing or whatever, I'll just sing along to it. I like to think that it adds something, but it's not like I'm trying to be the singing dom or anything. I just love to sing. I've been singing for as long as I can remember. But music is definitely like, it's a whole other side they're all intertwined, but it's definitely like, I don't know. I like having multiple almost lives because it makes things more interesting. I get bored really easily, so I like to like switch it up, which is, why I'm a switch. Like I'm definitely a dominant person, but for the right person, love to let go and just be thrown around like a rag doll. But that's not for everybody.
Yeah, so you took a break from the adult entertainment industry, didn't you, for a couple years?
Yeah, I kind of got a little burnt out, honestly. I needed to take a big step back and find myself again because I realized that I was like my sexuality was purely it felt purely for other people at that point. Like it wasn't mine anymore. And I needed to find my yoni again, like I had to figure out what she wanted and just let her do her thing. And that was when I really started exploring music, which was very healing. Music is so healing. I mean, it's a primal thing. We were singing before we were talking, so that's why I love music so much. Like that's almost a spiritual thing as well in its own healing sense. But yeah, I've been working on a secret project for a while that I can't really talk about yet, but it's it's coming. It's coming. I'm actually going to be releasing some demos on SoundCloud pretty soon, ones that I won't be releasing with the new project, but are too good to just sit there.
We'll send people that way when that comes out because I want our audience to hear you singing too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all up on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, but a lot of the demos are going to be on SoundCloud.
So you took a break from the adult entertainment industry and you said it was to find your sexuality for you again because you felt like it was for other people. So was there a moment where you were like, oh, I figured it out, like I feel better? Or was it just kind of like a realization that you had it for a couple months at that point?
It was a couple years, honestly, before I started. The first step was I started learning to dom, and it was because of Anana. That's why they're all linked. I was doing music. I had a weird dream. I discovered Anana, and then that was like because I had thought about doming for years. I just never did it professionally, like in session, not just as a performer. And Nana was what really gave me the push to be like, okay, cool. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna reach out to some old dear friends of mine. So I reached out to Domina Angelina, who was actually my first mistress back in the day when I was Kitty. And then she agreed to take me on as her mentee to be shown the ropes, so to speak. And then also I contacted is Mistress Isabella Sinclair, and she's been an amazing mentor as well. But yeah, that I like started getting into that. That made me like, because at the time I was like, I don't want to be submissive. I was like so over being submissive. I was like, no, I don't, no, not at all, and not for anybody. So that was what really like helped me start to get back into things again. And then I met my partner, Dietrich Comte, who is an artist. We are actually doing a goddess complex project right now that highlights Inanna and other goddesses. But I met him and we just had like a really crazy connection. And that was when I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is what it's like. Because he was the first person that I had submitted for in many years. So it was so beautiful and freeing, and we just had this like crazy whirlwinds for like, I mean, we're still in it, but yeah, it's that was what really like made me go, okay, I think I'm ready to share that side of myself completely with the world again, because the sex is so fucking ridiculously good that I'm like, we gotta let people see this. People should watch this. We're always filming each other anyway, and like you're like, I was looking at my phone one day, like I should start an OnlyFans. I just post this. This is great. it's been really, really, really amazing. And like this past couple years has been, yeah, it's like opened so much more. And again, this is why it's so healing. Like BDSM, figuring yourself out, like it all starts down here.
I want to be a dom. I feel like I'd gain so much confidence.
It is
Um,
really, it definitely will help, but I think you have to like, you have to kind of like know you're kind of like, kind of working your way up there. And then but once you have that first session where you're in control and it's just, yeah, you feel like a badass. It's definitely an empowering thing.
So one thing that's always like kind of interested me about dom work specifically as opposed to other, types of sex work is it seems like with dom work, you don't need to advertise as much. Like people on OnlyFans constantly are having to promote it, but it seems like with being a dominatrix, it's almost as if people come to find you.
I would agree with that actually. I think that people will find the dominant that is most appealing to them. And a lot of submissives, in my experience, are very shy about approaching. Like I've had one of my regulars now. It took him a year to message me because but it. Sorry, I'm just having a memory. But COVID's been crazy. I really miss the dungeon. I haven't been sessioning as much lately. Just online, which is fun too, but not the same.
We all know the online world is not the same
It's not the same.
for like every aspect of life.
Yeah, it's been wild.
I'm curious in how people go about joining the Dom Collective, especially under Mistress Sinclair. But before you answer, I want to tell you how I think it should be. So, I think that you should get a black velvet envelope with calligraphy pen detailing you are invited, or no, not invited, you are summoned to, at some point in the contract, to agree to join. There's a drop of blood involved. I don't think that's what it's like, but Mr. Sinclair, if you're listening, please consider it. I think it'd be really cool.
That would be really cool. I like that idea. I like the formality of it.
Like it would have a wax stamp, be delivered by, I don't know, Crow, but that's probably not how it is. So how do you join a Dom collective?
Well, I feel like there's no like one way to join, but I I met Isabella at a adults convention at Exotica. I had admired her. We never met before, and we kind of were just thrown into this like, okay, we're gonna do a stage show together, and I'm gonna be a cat, and you're going to whip me on the stage, and then I'm gonna put milk all over me, and it was kind of like an improvised thing. But ever since then, I just really like she's so inspiring. So when I decided that I was going to start doming, she was one of the first people that I approached to just be like, do you have any advice or anything? And she took me into a session, a few sessions with her and just kind of walked me through things. But there wasn't like a ceremony or anything. Maybe there should be. Isabella, I think that you should have ceremonies in your new manor house. Yes.
Oh, I've been seeing her renovations on that manor house. Insane.
It looks so
Also,
exciting.
I was in a sorority in college, so if you need any weird initiation ideas, I got you. Because I feel like joining the Dom Collective should be a bigger deal than joining a sorority. But that's just me. So
I like it.
moving on. You were talking about conventions like Exotica, and we stalked your website, and you said that you have won multiple Triple X awards. How do you go about winning Triple X awards, first of all?
Well, first you just gotta make a fuck ton of porn with really good companies. Just, be as slutty as you can be. And then you might get nominated at like AVN or XBiz are the two like biggest ones. Pornhub has its own awards now. And then my awards, I won Female Performer of the Year for Urban X, the Urban X Awards. And I won a few XBiz awards, Best Supporting Actress. And for AVN, my two awards were Best Oral Sex Scene and Best Double Penetration Sex Scene. And they were both from one of my movies, one of my feature movies, for Elegant Angel. And those were very fun days. And the kitty, the oral sex scene was really, really fun because it was all my idea. I wanted to be a kitty and do like a blow bang, and then they all come in a bowl, and I lap it up like a kitty, you know? That's you too. I'm kind of a cat lady. So. But yeah, it's weird because it's like these award shows, it's just, who is the absolute sluttiest? Everyone's trying to out-slut each other. I just think it's really funny.
So it's not like best, I don't know, angles, picture quality, staging. It's just who's the sluttiest.
Pretty much. I mean, there's best picture, there's definitely like, you know, other awards that aren't so much sex act related. But I think that everyone just wants to know what the sex act related ones are. You know, there's like best performer of the year. There's best new starlet at AVN. So it's all the like newbie girls that are in. But for the most part, the fun awards are like who was the best girl scene, who was the best orgy scene. I don't know. It's been a while since I went to an award show.
Do you give an acceptance speech?
Yeah.
What do you say in an acceptance speech for the porn award? Do you thank the Academy or?
I mean, I guess people will thank usually the person that they worked with, and you know, the usual kind of stuff. I think the most famous one was Asa Akira's speech when she was like, "And I want to thank my asshole." That was a memorable one. Yeah.
Sorry if I'm just hung up on that. It's just I'm imagining like if you were to just take out the categories and it was just people announcing awards and then accepting awards, like is it pretty much just the Oscars but more lit? Like
definitely. Everyone's a lot more friendly. But it's a wild experience. If you've never been to the AVN award show, you should check it out. It'd be fun. They have like convention days and the days leading up to the actual awards, and it's kind of nuts because it's like the entire porn industry will take over a casino, and you're just like it's just a wild whirlwind of an experience. I think my first AVN was what made me go, okay, I want to do porn. This is fun. This is really fun. Everyone's friendly, you know, having a good time.
we fully plan on going to the AVNs, and luckily we have some guests who are willing to show us around because I think Shelby and I just aimlessly wandering around the AVNs probably wouldn't go super well. So
it's good to have a guide, but that'll be fun. I'm excited for you.
So yeah, I basically just need a mommy to show me around. So anyways, back to the interview.
You were talking about being a cat lady, and one of our producers, the one who emailed you, Kit, was like, oh yeah, she has 3 cats and 3 snakes. And I am just curious about how those animals like live together.
Well, the snakes and the cats don't really. It's actually 4 cats now. The snakes and the cats don't really mix that much. They're definitely afraid of each other, so I don't like let them. The snakes live in their tank unless I have them out or I'm feeding them or whatever, and I always supervise because the cats are curious, you know, so they might want to like paw, but the snakes are terrified. So they're little snakes. I have 2 corn snakes and a king snake. So they're not like ball pythons. If I had bigger snakes, it would be the other way around, and I'd be more worried about the snakes eating a cat, which is a reality there.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, because like I feel like depending on the size, one is definitely going to be the predator to the other, you know? So
Yeah.
that I feel
They're
like that's an interesting house dynamic to have.
Have you ever used one of your snakes in a session?
I have terrorized a slave with my snakes.
Ah, knew it.
I felt a little bad after because I was really scared. But no, they're so small, so it's not, and they don't really bite or anything. They're just trying to crawl away so they can go and go hide somewhere. That's their deal. But yeah, it's definitely, it can be a fun tool to terrorize. For me, I just, I'm not afraid of snakes and lizards and stuff, so it kind of, it makes me laugh when people are really scared of like really small snakes, because I'm like, it's so small, it's like it's not even gonna do anything, and it feels really cool. Have you ever held snakes?
I have.
They feel really cool and they compress. So like if you're submissive and you're into compression, like vet wrap or something, snakes would be fun because they probably like snakes because they like wrap themselves around your arms and like kind of lightly squeeze, and it feels really nice. Like I really like it. But just yeah. I do this to myself quite a lot.
Like, that sounds like something I could be interested in.
Yeah.
I've never thought of doing like compressions and everything, but I've always wanted to be in a vacuum bed, which I've been very vocal about. Somebody please put me in your vacuum bed. So,
I need a vac bed, actually. That's been on my list for a bit. I've never been in one either, but they look really fun.
yeah, before I guess COVID hit back in March, Shelby and I were going to go to this. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a sex party, but it was like a party where people can have sex in a dungeon, and I was like, I just want to go get put in the vacuum bed and leave. That's it. So, a pipe dream of mine.
I'm all for it. I'm rooting for you. Eventually, once this COVID stuff calms down, you're going to be in a back bed. Maybe at AVN. Maybe someone will have a back bed at AVN. And you'll just be like,
I
out one
just
night and find yourself in one. That'd be fun.
I can't wait to like submit a vacation request through my work, and they're like, reason for vacation. I'll be like, going to AVN, duh.
Yeah, it's fun. You'll have a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of fetish parties and stuff that happen too.
Was there a point where you discovered dom work? Because I don't think I was very familiar with exactly what dominatrixes did or anything beyond like what you would see in popular media. So like, what was your introduction to the profession?
That's a good question. I don't know. You probably, you know what? So there was this magazine that I used to be obsessed with back in the day. It doesn't even exist anymore. It's called Bizarre Magazine. And in the days before the internet, when you could just look up any fucking thing, we had magazines, and and I learned a lot from this particular magazine. That was how I discovered that, you know, there could be like really hot tattooed beauties in latex. And I fell in love with this model called Bianca Bouchamp, who's a French Canadian. She looks like Jessica Rabbit. So I fell in love with her because I love Jessica Rabbit. And, she would wear latex and so I guess that was my first exposure to seeing fetish themes. I don't think I ever had like a eureka moment with it. It was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. People beat people up. Yeah. It was just like yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I don't think I ever had like there just were dominatrixes and that was all right with the world.
What's the weirdest request you've ever gotten?
The weirdest.
You can also give me like top 3, whatever's coming to your mind right now. I feel like every time I ask this question, everyone's like, wow, I need to think of all the weird shit I've done. So take your time.
Maybe I'll think about it and we can like talk about something else and then like we'll come back to it. Because I definitely have some weird, do you mean like specifically like sessions or just in general?
Well, I feel like you've done so many different things. Just saying dom work, I feel like limits you too much. So, my favorite part of these interviews is just hearing stories and just hearing about things that I couldn't have even imagined.
Hmm.
So, strange request. And of course, it's never in a way to kink shame anybody, unless that happens to be their fetish. Been learning a lot on this show. Before I got involved with Candy Girl, I was like, wow, foot stuff is so weird. And now when I hear foot stuff, I'm like, okay, but like, tell me weird shit.
I've had
None of
a
it.
guy fuck my hair. Like
How
wrap
does that work?
hair around the penis and then just like this. That's pretty weird. A really unique one too, I think. I don't hear that one very often.
Yeah, what did that feel like?
I mean, for me, it just kind of felt like my hair was getting pulled, which it was. I mean, he enjoyed it. I remember asking him where he like where how did that one start? And I think he just like did it once with a girlfriend and liked it. But cool. Sure.
When we interviewed Mistress Helena, she was telling us about, I'm probably going to butcher this story, but she had a client who wanted this scene where she was this queen of another planet and she came down and kidnapped him and took him to her planet and then either shrank him or he was already really small and ate him. And then most of the video, yeah, was her like describing him going through her digestive tract. And I remember telling that to a friend recently, and they're like, "You're literally the only person I know who would ever bring something like that up." And I was like, there's not even half of the stuff that we hear on this show.
Yeah, I forget what fetish that's called, but it's like the fetish of being tiny and being eaten by a giant woman.
I think I
Very
want to say it's called
interesting.
gore.
Cool.
Gore or
Like
something.
some James and the Giant Peach type fetish.
No, okay, it's not called gore. But we'll come back to this. I'll figure it out.
Trying to think of other weird things.
Vor. Vor.
Vor?
Vor, that's what it's called. The fetish of vorophilia is being eaten for sexual pleasure, but they nicknamed it vor. So,
Yeah, it's actually a little more common than I think people would even believe. Because I've done a few like videos where I was like smashing up like an army of tiny men, and that was a fun, interesting day. And then I remember, so my old adult agents used to get this email from the same guy, and he would just talk about how he wanted to be cooked, and he would describe exactly how, and then he wanted to be like ingested. And it's just very interesting. Like it's like how does that start? That's why I love fetishes, because they're so interesting. They really tap into your psyche, you know? Like
yeah.
how did that one start?
Yeah, have you ever, like, felt like you've uncovered or do you have any theories for certain fetishes and why they would start?
Sometimes they're so random that it's like, I don't know, it's like it must be like something very early on, and maybe something that you don't even remember because it was so early on. Yeah, and then other things, it's like how ASMR, like there's something about it that you just can't stop watching because it triggers that area in your brain, that the reward receptors, and you like, you just get immense satisfaction by just a sensation that maybe isn't anything to do with sex, the actual act of sex. Like latex is like that, it's a very sensual feeling, and it can be sexual, but it doesn't need to be. It can be both. But I'm going off on a tangent now.
And that's what we're here for. Have there ever been any requests that you've turned down?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm not really into the gross stuff. Pee is one thing, but I'm not down for anything else.
Human toilet? That's one that always surprises me.
It's not, I mean, you do you if that's what you're into. I have a hypersensitive sense of smell, and like, and also like, I don't think I'd be able to. I feel like I would get poop shy and I like wouldn't be able to do it.
There's no way I could. So I can't even poop in front of my friends,
I don't,
more or less on a person. So
it's not my thing. It's not my thing. No shame. Anyone who likes it and anyone who does partake, it's just not for me. It's not for me. Pee is fine. That's fine.
Are you familiar with the Hindu goddess Kali?
Oh yes, of course.
You earlier talking about how you did a scene where you were like crushing men totally reminded me of the story of her going through and like crushing all the men when she was summoned.
She's awesome. She's definitely going to be involved in this goddess project that I'm doing with my partner. So the first part of the project is all about Anana, and I've actually posted some photos. We have a Patreon, so like the first set of it is live, but we're kind of telling the story of the goddesses, and then it starts off. I'm being born out of an egg, and that's like the birth of Anana, and my snakes are in the photos. It's gonna like follow the story. And then she'll end up at the end giving birth to a new egg, and that's going to be the new goddess to kind of symbolize that they're all connected. Like a lot of these goddesses are, they were inspiring each other or not, or it's weird how similar some are, even though they're like miles apart. But yeah, Kali's definitely going to be in there because she's a badass. We're just going to highlight all the most badass gods and goddesses, I think.
What's your Patreon, one for our guests, but two, because I am so interested in this. I want to see this so badly.
It's Patreon, the Goddess Complex.
I'm literally on the website right now.
Amazing. I do have links for it as well on like my Instagram, all my social media pages.
So then one thing I've just always been curious about that I don't think we've focused about enough, and this kind of goes back to sex worker safety.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, or I guess any dominatrix, determine who y'all get to actually meet and who gets left online? I mean, it seems obviously y'all are bad bitches, but I imagine it would be intimidating to meet up with a stranger in such an intimate way.
Mm-hmm. Well, usually, I mean, with when it comes to in-person clients that you've never met before, well, first I have them fill out a relatively lengthy questionnaire. That kind of weeds out any time wasters and people that like can't read or are annoying and stupid. Then it's good to get contact information. There are certain apps where you can double check people are who they say they are. Mr. Number is one. I think it's important for what I do when I'm meeting someone I have never met before is I meet them in a public place first. Like I'll have them take me shopping or take me out to a restaurant, a fancy fucking restaurant. That way you can also see how capable they are. And you're in a very public place with cameras and all sorts of things. So that will again weed out shitty people. For the most part, though, I definitely follow my gut. Like if I have a weird feeling about someone, I just don't. I think that's very, very important. A lot of people don't listen to their gut instincts. I am fucking guilty of it myself sometimes, and I always regret it. But yeah, if you have a bad feeling about something, just make an excuse. You're the one that's in control. So you call the shots anyway. And don't let anyone bully you into anything otherwise. If you're uncomfortable, you fucking let them know. Or don't, just disappear if they're weird. Fuck them. At the end of the day, you just have to, look out for number one. Like if you have weird feelings, like make sure, like if I'm meeting someone, sometimes I'll give my partner their contact information. If you don't hear from me at this time, then call me or whatever. Something's wrong. That never really happens, but it's just a good precaution to take. Just cover all your bases. If God forbid something did go wrong, then at least you have all the information that you would need. I also have new clients and old clients give me a deposit, also have a link to them online as a person, like PayPal, those kind of apps, like you have to put your information. So there you go. You got it.
I love that. Yeah, recently we've been trying to figure out advice that we can give to our listeners, any potential DOMs of how to stay safe. But going off of that, do you have any advice for any aspiring dominatrixes?
I would advise to try to find a dominatrix that you admire and look up to, and maybe ask if she would like to, if she would be willing to mentor, or if she could even just, not everyone is prepared to mentor. It can be some responsibility, but even just asking questions is great. Like go to, there's also forums where you can talk to people, share stories. I like using FetLife. There's a lot of forums and groups on there, and then you can kind of chat with people. And yeah, I feel like if you're trying to get into doming, but you're just kind of you've never really experienced much of the fetish scene, I would highly recommend. I mean, it's hard now because of fucking everything, but fetish parties are a great way to mingle and network and get and start to learn your shit. I think that it's important to play off, like not in a professional sense a lot, so what you're doing as well. You don't want to just be faking it, like I authenticity is very important in the world of BDSM, and I think it's easier to tell when someone's not really there or just doing it for the money or something.
Final question. I ask this to every Dom that we interview. Is there LaCroix in the dungeon that you work out of? Or any type of sparkling water?
I actually don't drink sparkling water that often, but there is not LaCroix in the dungeon that I work out of. Just regular water.
It's 50-50. Man, some dungeons have LaCroix and sparkling water, some don't. I just think it's so funny that there are connections, or I guess similarities between tech offices and dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm more surprised when people say no. So
yeah, I wouldn't even say it's 50-50. I think out of every dominatrix we've interviewed, you and then one other are the only two who haven't had sparkling water in their dungeon.
I mean, I have, but I don't regularly. It's not like a thing, but I'm sure I've drank a sparkling water at some point in a dungeon. I think so. There's been a lot of dungeons.
a lot of dungeons. Wait, what does a dungeon have to be a good dungeon? Like, what's a good dungeon versus like mid-tier dungeon?
A fucking clean dungeon. I love meticulously clean spaces especially when it comes to like dungeons, because there's a lot of shit that goes on in those places. If it's a good place, and you want to make sure that you can be as depraved and disgusting as you can in a very clean environment. Start off clean, and then get dirty, and then there you go. That's my one thing. I just really like everything to be clean and organized. Isabella Sinclair's space, Ivy Manor, is very clean and organized, and I really like it for that reason. But it's also a really fun space because every room has a different theme, so you can kind of choose which vibe you want to go with, or if you want to do like a medical theme or more of a relaxed lounging space. Yeah.
I can't wait to visit a dungeon. I just want to know how it smells. So
Leather and cleaning products.
that's what I've heard. So I can't wait to do our episode where we just stand in a dungeon and describe everything around us.
Well, that's all of the questions I have for you. Do you have anything else, Emily?
No.
Madam Skin, this was an amazing interview. Thank you so much for talking with us. I feel like we got to learn so much. And also, I loved all of the conversation about goddesses. That was so cool.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're excited. It was so good meeting you guys. You're really awesome.
Thank you. Do you have any websites or socials that you want us to plug so that our listeners can find you easier?
Of course, I have, there's my main website, raylinjoy.com, which has all of my music. And then I also have madamskin.net, which has more information of how to serve me. And then I also have social media, usually on Instagram is RayJoyCat. I have all my links to my OnlyFans and my premium Snapchat and all that kind of stuff so we can chat. And I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, if you guys are listening and you want to find us, we're at Candy Girl Podcast on Instagram, at Candy Girl Pod on Twitter. You can email us if you have any questions for Madam Skin or for anyone else on the show at candygirlpodcast@outlook.com, or we have a website now, candygirlpodcast.com. And the song that's playing us out right now is by Madam Skin, aka Raylin Joy. If that's where you want to find her on Spotify, you absolutely should check her out. And we will hear from you guys next Friday.
Baby, scratch it, give me